Hello everybody, in this project we are going to see how to set up Adobe Audition, and we are going to have a look at its main functions, the interface, and how we are able to import and export audio files. So when you open Adobe Audition, you will find the same screen as I am looking at the moment, and in this page you will see a range of resources that you can utilize to explore a bit more about the software. So after you close the panel, you'll see that this is the main interface. It consists of multiple panels which they can be rearranged to any configuration we want. If I'm not mistaken, the current workspace that we have is the default one. There are other workspaces as well that you can choose from all these options. But also, as I mentioned, you can move around things if they make sense to be placed in a different location. For now, I just leave it here as it was. We start from this corner over here. We have the waveform view and the multi-track view. First, let's create a project. Now I will name my session and I will find a location where I want this to be stored. I'll go to my desktop, Communications Lab, and Sound Project and Audition, and I will place it here. I need to ensure that the template is none. We'll start fresh, and the sampler rate 48 Hertz and the bit depth of 24 is a good setting for now. The master can be at stereo, and we press OK and we create a new multi-track session. You see here there are various tracks that we created automatically when we created the project, and we can navigate and see how many of these tracks appear. There are 6 tracks. Of course, we can delete or add more tracks if we want. For now, it's quite enough. So this is the editor window. In this window, we will be able to place our files and create transitions and so on and so forth. I will go to this window here. Here we have the files that exist currently at our, within our project. Now we have just the Audition project, and here on the media browser we can go and navigate and find some audio files that we can import into our project. So now that I located where my sound library is, I can come to this window and I can start playing back the files so that I can ensure that I am selecting the correct files to import to my project. I can play back the files here, I can loop them if I want, and I can utilize autoplay, which means that when I come and click the files will be automatically be playback. So I'm collecting this sound here, the wind blow. I bring it into my project, and you will notice that the sample rate of my project is at 48,000 Hertz or 48 kilohertz, and the imported sound is at a different sample rate. If I bring my sound into my project, then I will get a notification saying that the sample rate of the file has to be converted in order to be imported correctly. So I press OK, and this will create a new version of the file at 48 kilohertz. And the file will be imported into my track 1, and I'm able to go through it. I can play back the file. I bring it to the beginning by dragging it. And I have now the file into my project. Of course, I can scrub if I want to find a particular location that I want into the file. And you will also notice that I have various indicators to display the volume, the level of the decibels. Here, this meter, it will display the level of the channel. Everything that exists in the channel, it will be displayed on this meter as its volume. And on the bottom here, you will see that there is a similar level meter that it's going to display the mastering. So all the channels will end up into this meter. So pay attention both to this meter over here on your channels, but also on the master level meter. Very, very important. We always need to avoid distortion. So every time we notice a red indication, this means that we need to bring the volume of our sound lower, at a lower level. Here I have clicked on the loop playback, and when the file finishes, it will start from the beginning. And since this is the full duration of my project, then after the file finishes, it will go back to the beginning. I have additional transport controls here to play, stop, move back and forth, and also to zoom in and out the files. I can drag also this here or here to zoom in and out into my project. I can also command utilize the mouse or the mouse pad to zoom in, and of course I can always drag this and I can see a little bit better what happens into my file. I go to the settings here. This is quite alright. You will also notice that here we have the volume of the track. Here we see the samples as they have been recorded through time. Yeah, so we don't see any frequency spectrum here. We only see the amplitude that has been sampled at that particular location. If we zoom in at a grade level, we will start seeing the samples. These are the samples. And this right here, it demonstrates that we have 48,000 points for 1 second. This is our sampled file. I zoom out and we come back to our original view. Some things I can do now with my file. I can process various aspects of it. I can cut the sound into different pieces and I can move them around if I want. To do this, I would use the razor tool or the move tool. These two tools are super important. The shortcuts are V and R. So if I come here, I can just press R and I can click to anywhere I want, and by pressing V, now I have separated the file into different parts. I can move them around if I want. And I can also move them to another channel. You will see here that the transitions between the sounds are very abrupt. When one sound finishes, the other one starts directly. If I want to create a smoother transition, then I can create some fading in and fading out. If the clips are on the same track, Audition will allow us to create automatic transitions. So if I push this clip closer to the other one, you will see these two lines that they indicate that the fading between these two clips is done automatically for us, which is a great feature. So the transition is a little bit nicer. Of course, the sounds now here, they have very, very similar frequency spectrum, so it is not so much of a change. But if I bring another file, I'll bring this elevator sound. Now this is a little bit bigger, so I'll move it at the end. It will also notify me that the sample rate is different. I'll press OK, so it will create a new file to bring it into my project. And now I can have both of these different audio files in the same track. And I can create a transition if I just bring it closer like this. So the transition has been a little bit smoothened out. The audio file that I have included into my track is a stereo file, and this means that it has two channels. This is one channel and this is the other channel. If I put the volume a little bit higher, we'll see that the information in this region and this region is a little bit different. And this is because we have these two different channels. There is different information that arrives on our left channel and right. So our channel is able at the moment to provide some settings for us that relate to the volume, how loud we are listening the sound, and also the panning from left to right, which is the stereophonic position that we want to place our file. So I put back to center, to 0, and I put the volume to 0 as well. And you may notice that after I increase the volume, now I'm starting to get peaks here, which is something that it should be avoided at all times. I go back to the original level at 0, and I click here to get rid of the red indications. These will remain here as a reminder. Other properties of the channel is the mute, solo, and record. For these three buttons, if I press mute, all the track is going to be muted. All the clips in the track are going to be muted. If I press solo, then this will separate only this track for playback, and if I have other tracks at the same time, then I will not be able to listen the rest of the tracks, only this particular one. And the record here, it will allow me to record in this channel. Now you see that the input from my computer, which is the microphone, is giving me the indications, and I'm able to record my voice if I want. To record my voice, I can come to the space that it is empty, and I will press the record button. I love Communications Lab. So now I recorded this sentence. The file that I recorded, it will appear on my files directory. Here I'm able to see that I recorded a stereo file at the same bit depth and sample rate as my project. Okay, and if I play it back, actually I can close this. I love Communications Lab. Okay, so now I have an additional recording that I included into my project, and I can use it in any way that I want. Some additional settings that I have on my channel are settings for setting the input channel, mono, stereo, etc., or the output, where exactly the output of the channel goes to. At the moment, it goes to the master channel. And this, we can visualize it either from this channel list that we have on the editor, or we can visualize it if we go to the mixer. So the mixer here, it includes a different view. It resembles the mixing console that we may see in many different recording studios. And we are able to control the volume, and other settings as the ones I just described, that they are included on each individual track. Here we also have the effects section that we're going to discuss in following classes. And finally, here we have the master track, and all the audio is going to arrive at the master track. At the moment, my audio doesn't go there because this is the input volume. If I go and play back my sound, then I will see that the playback of the sounds, they will go to the master track as well. Other panels that I'm able to see on my project is the history panel here at the bottom corner, and the history is super helpful because it will keep track of everything that I have been doing into my project, and I can go back and forth to any of these changes. So if I go back to trim clips, move clips, and so on and so forth, I will see the previous changes I have done into my project. So don't worry if some of the processing and editing that you are developing is done in a wrong way and you feel that something is not right. You can always go back and redo your process. I will go back to the origin. Now I can see that I have some empty tracks. I may delete them, and I will import this elevator sound again. This panel on the other side of my screen, the essential sound, it includes various different presets that they can be applied according to the tasks that we are processing at the moment. If we feel that a particular aspect of these 4 categories can be helpful for our project, then we can go and apply it in our case. I will go actually back to the ambience and I will try a default preset, perhaps the white and deep. Before I apply it, I will go and listen to this audio file before, the effect, and after. And now I will apply the wide and deep. I will change to from outside. So I can already see that there are various differences in the spectrum, volume, and the nature of the acoustic result. And we can play between these presets. For now, I would advise that we don't use the presets, and actually I'm going to take the panel and just put it in this bar over here. One additional part of the interface that it is really important to know is the waveform view. In the waveform view, we can see the waveform editor, and the waveform editor will allow us to manipulate the audio file that we have imported into our project. Most of the cases, whatever we process in the editor view is a destructive editing. So far in the multi-track view, all the changes that we applied, they are non-destructive, which means that I can go back and forth with the volume, I can change the panning, and if I want, I can reset it to the original settings. And it is absolutely fine. With the destructive editing in the waveform, whatever we apply to, it will be stored in the audio file and we will not be able to recover this. But this is important because if we want to do audio restoration, if we want to do noise reduction, etc., then we can save that version of the file that we are working on as the clean version. So here, what we can do, you'll see that we are able to see the full part of the sound, and we can select parts of that. In this case, I may select this part here, that it is a little bit noisy. And if I want to reduce some of the noise, then I can go and do a noise reduction. In order to do noise reduction, I can click to capture noise print. It is really important to this process to capture the noise print. And I go to Effects and Noise Reduction Restoration. Here I can set the level of what I want the noise to remove, what elements, and this gives me the decibel range. This is on the low part of the sound. But because it is very noisy, it is very difficult to clean it as well. So I will clean it a little bit. I can process the noise reduction to a specific percentage, or I can reduce by decibels. I can have a linear or logarithmic scale for left and right channels, or select entire file if I want, and this will select the whole file. So anyway, let's do the whole file. And here, by putting output noise, I can listen what it is going to remove, what the algorithm thinks that this is noise. I can play this, and I can hear very little sound. If I go a little bit higher, I will be able to listen to the sound that it's going to be removed. If I don't output the noise, I can go back and forth to the settings, and I can start the noise reduction process or close it, and I can hear what the original sound sounds like. And if I press the power state, then I can listen what the algorithm is processing for the noise reduction. If we like the settings, then we can apply, and it will process the sound, and this is our new result. Other aspects that we can do is we can come to the noise reduction and restoration. The noise and the hammer and the reverb, they will further clean other aspects of the sound file. The dehammer is this electronic, this static noise that it's being made, and perhaps we can notice some of this noise in the beginning, especially in this area. But I will select the whole file, and I will go and do a noise reduction restoration with the dehammer, and I will repeat the same process. I will listen to my file, and you can see how it attempts to identify what is that frequency spectrum that it would affect more the file that I have at the moment, the acoustic result. Here we can see the harmful harmonics that the hammer sound has. So I can listen to that, and if I am happy with the result, then I can apply, and I can further reduce this content that it perhaps is unwanted. Some additional settings that they are very helpful for us to know is the amplitude statistics. So this setting right here, I'm going to drag it to this panel. My amplitude statistics if I scan the selection, and now I have selected the whole file, so I scan the file and it will provide for me some information such as what is the peak amplitude, and closer to 0 it means that we reach closer to the peak of the audio file, and this is what we want. If this value is closer to 0, it means that our file has a very good amplitude range. We can also see if there are any peaks or any problems. At the moment, I don't see any problems. Our sound looks quite healthy. And here we have the settings for the left and the right channels. In addition to this, our diagnostics panel, which is here, it will be able to scan the file and identify any problems. So here we see that there are 4 problems that it identified that these can be repaired. If I say repair all, now we see that these problems that they were detected, they have also been repaired. This will ensure that if there are some peaks into our file and some distortion, this process will remove it to a specific degree. At this last part of the project, I am going to create a mix with multiple files, and I am going to utilize various properties mainly on the multi-track view. So I will go first and select the wind blow, put it in my mix, convert it, and now what I want is to make it a little bit longer. So I am going to copy paste it in this way. I can snap it to one ending and the other. The time display, I'm going to set it to decimal is okay. Decimal is okay. First, I'm going to create a panorama, a motion from one side to the other. This will provide a little bit of space into my mix. As we described previously, these settings here, they can set the sound to a particular panoramic position, from left to right, full left to full right. But if I want to make sure that this is done automatically, I should be utilizing the automation panel that exists in this part of the channel. With the automation, I can select a particular property that I am interested in automating. Here I'm going to select the pan, and it will show me the panning envelopes. And I'm able to control this line that is going to give me a maximum of 100 for the right channel and a maximum for the left channel at 100 if I move it towards the other direction. So by moving this line, I'm able to control where my panning is. But in addition to this, I can create keyframes, and based on these keyframes, by clicking anywhere on the line, I'm able to create like different properties for my sound, and in this way I can move from one side to the other in this fashion. I will first try to make it a little bit shorter, this motion, so that we can see how this sounds like. I will come back to this value. And in a similar sense, of course, I can control other properties that I can access from these settings. Here I can also control the volume, and I can automate the volume. You may notice that when I do the panning here, it is very sudden, the change from 100% to a different percentage. This is because my change it's almost linear, and if I come and do a bit more logarithmic, this transition will sound much nicer. So this is a logarithmic transition using this exponential curve. I can automate it to make sure that it fits my taste somehow. So I have been able to change these parameters because I want to create this extra variation of the sound. So this creates a bit more interesting motion. I will continue my mix by adding a second sound, and I'm going to select this subway. I may choose around here in this position. And what I want to do is I want to fade in my file. Now there are a number of ways to fade in, and one of them is to grab this icon here, the fade in. As we can see here, this will create, if we drag this will create a curve line for us, and if I go upwards it will create from the other direction, and this is very convenient when I want to do transitions. So let's try and hear how this sounds like. Here we see that the overall volume is too high, and I will control the overall volume by this line. I will make it -6 decibels. It's a good range, I think. So I'm going to play back my sound and hear what it sounds like to the settings I have set already. If we're not satisfied with this fading, we can always use an automation of that, as we did previously. And in this case, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to open my envelope here, and this is the volume. And I will come and start from something very low and see how this sounds like. And what I have now is a little better, but you will notice that at the end it ends suddenly. And if we want to keep the same sound but in a sort of like a bit different way to make the variation more interesting, I can always come and take the same sound. I have imported it as a different file name here, and I will import a new version of the sound, and now I can come and open my file, and I will go and reverse it and save this because I want to keep it as a reversed version. So now I have the original file and the reversed version of the file. You will see that it's something like mirrored. I will place them together, and then I'll make sure that I continue in a similar fashion the volume that I have created on the first file, and I will fade it out somewhere around here. So let's hear how this sounds like. And we fade back to the rain. It sounds good. Now I notice that there is some click, and this click, it means that this sound is not adding very well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it like this, and I create a fading version. So now it will be even smoother, the transition, if I want to avoid any sort of clicks between these transitions. I may do that. I may choose to do that. In addition, I have to pay attention to the volume that is sent to the master. The information that goes from track 1 and track 2, they are added together, and the volume from track 1 and track 2, they are added together. And this means that the master channel will have the addition of these two channels. And I need to make sure that this doesn't peak at any time. And at this point, I would like to add an additional file. I'm going to choose this printer file I have here. Let's hear it. So with this sound, what I want to do is like add some texture and a mechanical element to create an interpolation between the rain texture we have on the background and the additional train that emerges at some point. So here I will experiment with cutting different pieces of the sound and playing with the volume and the panning. I'll make sure that I have two channels for this, and let's see how this will sound like. Now currently in our composition we have created a different parts of this printer audio object and put it in different positions to create some variation. We played a little bit with how is the duration and what is the point of intersection between them. Here we have created some fadings between the files, and also played with different parameters in terms of panning and volume mainly. So this is the result. We could further experiment and try different sounds, different combinations, and make sure that we utilize the techniques we learned in this session by applying the multitrack and the waveform editors, functions such as cutting, slicing, pasting audio objects, and utilizing volume, panning, and so on. And as the final thing for our session is to make sure that we can export our composition. To do that, I will make sure that I have I'll bring my file menu, and I will export multi-track mixdown entire session. So if I do this, then I will be able to set where exactly I want to save, what is the location that I want my file to appear in. Let me save it into my desktop. For the format, we have various options. I would recommend that we either select AIFF, which is the standard file format for audio in Macs, or WAV PCM, which is the standard audio format for Windows. But of course, Windows and Mac can both of them play the sound. Also, we have an option for MP3. We will not talk about compressed audio. We will stick to uncompressed AIF for now. And here we have the sample type and the information about our sound. And we press OK, and this will export our file to our desktop. So this is now the file that we created, 1 minute mix of the tracks that we composed together. So this was our first session with Audition, and we will continue in the next class by utilizing various audio effects and some additional mixing techniques. Thanks for watching.